in any doubt how important the fashion industry is to France, take a look at this. This is the opening of the Christian Dior show at the start of Haute Couture Week. We picked this up off the road just down there, really. These are the sort of things that were flying around last night. It is really incredible that no one was more seriously injured. To that end, he murdered a grandfather and tried to detonate bombs outside 3 mosques in the West Midlands area. It took him a good few minutes to get in through the front door. He was here for 30 minutes and then turned around and came back out again. BBC, how do you feel? Unbelievable.
Our correspondent Ben Moore has been speaking exclusively to the grandmother.
As a mum and as a grandma, how worried are you?
Very worried.
And Whole Lotta Love by Led Zepp has been voted the giant of all jams. 40 days, 400 towns and cities and 4,000 baton bearers. You wouldn't want to drop it, you know, though, because there's only one. If anything happens to this, which is why I'm going to give it back immediately,
give it back.
There isn't another one to replace it, so I'll let it get on. Yeah.
Well, our correspondent Ben Moore is at the General Synod in central London for us now. So how significant is this moment?
Well, it is very significant. We've had 3 days of debate around the issue now. This is the sort of final one getting underway behind me here at Church House. It is seen as something that is very important to the Church. This proposal that's been put forward, we were told earlier in the week that there is no plan B, but there still is dissent coming from the floor of the debating chamber. We've just heard, for example, from Rod Thomas from the Diocese of Exeter. He says that he's still very much in favour of solely having male headship. An orthodox work found in an unorthodox place. This hand-painted Jewish manuscript was discovered in a cardboard box in a garage during a house clearance. The book deals with the Jewish festival of Passover, the rituals, the best way to observe it. But there are also familiar stories from the Old Testament in here as well, including this illustration that shows the Egyptian army being drowned in the Red Sea.
Ben Moore considers its teachings and why they may have led to confusion over its status.
Its core belief is the existence of supernatural beings called thetans, who have become trapped in physical bodies, us. The church is considered a commercial enterprise in Switzerland and a cult in Israel. Perhaps the country that will be most interested in today's ruling is Germany, which sees Scientology as an anti-constitutional sect and has its activities monitored by the government. Ahmed Mohammed is a 27-year-old from Somalia, as you say, and he's subject to what's called a terrorism prevention and investigation measure, more commonly known as a TPIM. Now, they essentially restrict the movements of people that police and the government think are a risk, but they can't be deported or tried for reasons of national security. Now, Scotland Yard are keen to trace Mr Mohammed. They say that he attended a mosque in Acton on Friday. The poet who wrote this libretto has not put pen to paper for the last 25 years.
I'm very pleased to be coming back with Magna Carta.
Alice is most infamous, as she puts it, for her much more controversial 1991 opera, The Death of Klinghoffer.
For several hours, the whereabouts of the ship was known only to those on board and to the...
It's based on the hijacking of the Achille Lauro cruise liner by the Palestinian Liberation Front in 1985. It led to Alice leaving the States, converting to Christianity and becoming a rector in the Cambridgeshire village of Fulbourn. But despite the decades, her work once again has a controversial theme. There are 10 workshops all dealing with different topics that aim to bring the two disciplines of science and religion together. For example, this is an experiment that deals with the Big Bang. Yes. But inland, in a jungle clearing, communities are being rebuilt. Dewadasa Sokamal lost most of his foot after the tsunami washed him through a window. His family have been living rough ever since. Unusual, really, in the way that I'm able to stand here and tell you what's been going on in Court 3, because it's not been happening in front of a jury. She has broken her silence, where else but on Twitter, and what else would she have broken her silence with but her tweet about a recipe?
Our correspondent Ben Moore is there for us. Ben, what do we know about what happened?
Well, here at British Car Auctions, their site is just really about 100 yards off the end of the runway at Blackbush Airport. You can see it there, just where that tree line is. And at about 3:10 this afternoon, a plane crashed into the site. We know it was a Phenom 300 jet. We know there were 4 people on board. Interpol has issued a missing persons alert to 190 countries as finding 5-year-old Asha becomes ever more crucial.
Ben Moore is at Didcot Power Station for us this morning. Morning to you, Ben. What more can you tell us?
Well, this is about as close as we can get this morning. That is the police cordon as the industrial estate here around Didcot is waking up. 100 metres down that road is the Didcot A site and what remains of what was a 300-metre long turbine hall. Yes, well, the details are just coming in, but as we heard there, the police saying they're treating this as a mass murder incident. There is evidence, they say, that it was premeditated. The Itchin has now burst its banks here in the city centre. 15 tonnes of water coming through here every second. Really, the road's now only becoming accessible to vehicles like this. I want to tell you a little bit about what's been happening upstream as well. We've got an interview set up, but it's never that simple. It never is at South Today. He lives on a caravan on the A259, this A road, and we know we've got to meet him, but we just don't know where, so we're just going to drive up and down until we find him. So as well as recording stuff and editing it, as you've seen us do before, we can also go live, and we use this rather large contraption known as a satellite track. I think